We'll do it just a second, let everyone get in. How you feeling today?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Hopefully these allergies are gone tomorrow, and we'll be in a good spot.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. It moved, ears and eyes to eyes and nose. Now it's nose and throat. Gardening yesterday probably didn't help anything, but it's getting better.
No, I had some too, and I went for a swim. That seemed to flush it out pretty good.
Yeah.
So good.
Must be nice.
I have a pool that I can swim in. So, I don't want to say that during COVID,
Yeah.
But I do have a pool that.
All right. Okay. All right, guys. So welcome today. Today we're going to be talking about underwater kicking, and we're just going to get into some of the finer points on coaching it. So I'll go ahead and let my guest introduce himself. Brought to you by the RB Skype hotline. Go ahead.
Oh, that's nice. Hey guys, Brian Hoffer, president of Hoffer Sports Consulting, co-founder of Hofforce, college coach for 25 years, been in private coaching now the last 10, and looking forward to talking about underwater kicking. It should be fun.
Perfect. All right, Brian. So let's just kick it off, okay? Who should be doing underwater kicking?
Well, I think everyone should do underwater kick, but I always say there's 3 levels of kicking underwater. And I think probably if you're a coach or even if you've been around swimming a while, you're going to see, I think, 3 distinct types. 1, not good. They're going to do their 1 or 2 kicks maybe, and they're just going to try to get them going. The 2 is probably somebody that maybe is growing, or they might have a little bit of a sense they can do it, but they're just not there yet, either due to weaknesses or flexibility, or maybe they can learn a little bit. So they're okay at it, but they're not great. And then your 3rd one, I think, is ones that are pretty natural at it, get it from the very beginning, can always get better, stronger, and faster, but probably have a natural ability for it. So those are the 3 that I kind of think that are pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. So what you're kind of saying is not all swimmers, not all underwater kickers are created equal.
Right. 100%. And I think, when you look at that as a coach or even as an athlete, as you're evaluating yourself, is make sure that you kind of know, put yourself in that window and say, all right, I've been swimming for 5 years. My underwater kick isn't getting good. Either you need to work on it and really figure it out and how good you can be, or minimize it and make sure you're not losing speed off the walls. I'm not sure which way to go all the time, because I look at my son as an example. He grew 6 inches in a year. And now we're starting to connect up his core a little bit better. He seems to be a little better at it. Just the way his length has helped him with that. Where before, he's a breaststroker, I just said, dude, do 1 or 2 and get out. So I think it really depends where they are in their development, what their body type is like, and what their strength is. Can really make a big difference on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you said something really important there. It's about not losing speed off the wall. That's the entire purpose of underwater, is to be adding or maintaining that speed from the push. So it's kind of
amazing where I kind of feel like some athletes are going to say, I have to do this many kicks. I'm like, okay, maybe on the first 25 you're going to do that many, but on the second 25, third 25, or even a 500, we're not going to do that many, because that's going to take up oxygen, they're going to lose speed, or you're not able to maintain a good integrity underwater. So why would you keep doing that? So I don't think there's a number that any athlete has to do. I think it's a number that makes sense for that race. Oxygen levels and how good are they at that? Is it to their advantage to maintain that speed or not? A lot of people have a hard time understanding that. I think a simple concept, but complicated when there's a lot of information coming in. Mom and dad say, everyone else is doing more and more kicks. Coaches are like, no, don't do that many. You're not that good at it. And the athlete's somewhere between, and there's a lot of information coming in for these athletes, and so somewhere you got to figure that out and practice it enough where it makes sense on all levels.
Yeah, and it is practice. It's that training that gets you there, and I think a lot of athletes get caught up in that kick count because they do it in practice. I mean? I have those goals for kids in practice. I'm not huge on going all the way underwater all the time, which we'll touch on later anyway. But I have a lot of kick count stuff on how many they have to do coming off the wall during practice. But when it comes time to go fast or time to race, you need to kick hard to the surface, and it's creating that. Okay, we're training it, we're trying to get better at it, but at the same time, we still have to go as fast as we can today.
Right. I'm going to challenge you on a little bit, because I think you and I both believe the same thing, because I know we work together enough. But I think coaches will, and swimmers will say, hey, I want to get better underwater kicking, but when do they really practice it? Like, what are they really doing? Are they really drilling it? Are they taking time to understand what's going to make them better? And I think just by doing it, I don't feel you'll necessarily get a lot better. You can get somewhat better, right? But if you truly want to get better underwater kicks, I think you have to drill it. I think you have to know what the best in the world are doing and get close to that. You're not going to be the same speed, but you've got to understand some technical aspects and then do different things along the way to help that learning process. Because I can't tell you how many people will say, yeah, my underwater kick felt horrible today. I said, well, how did it feel warm up? Well, I didn't really do it. Well, okay. So, it's part, if it is truly the fifth stroke, which for some people it really makes a big difference, you have to warm it up as you go your freestyle, your breaststroke, and backstroke. So I guess what I'm not saying is, what are you doing to drill it? What are you doing to practice it? What are things that you're doing on a daily basis to make it better? So that when we get to that point in a race where you want to really engage it and go, you've done all those things and you understand it.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about how you spend time underwater, just learning the feel of how your body moves through it. Like even swimming on top of the water is not a natural state for humans. Okay?
Right.
It's a learned thing. It's not something that just is, okay, you flop in and you go. You're not a fish. Underwater, it's a completely different ballgame. Now we're dealing with buoyancies and trying to fight the buoyancies rather than use it. So it's a whole different ballgame. And when you're talking about trying to force an athlete to you need to do more underwaters. You have to be drilling it. You have to be teaching them different ways to feel the water. There has to be some connection mentally to their body underwater. So
I'll give a great example, because I see a lot of athletes when they're kicking underwater, really forcing the down kick, and I don't want to say rest, but not engaging on an up kick. Now, I don't think there's a down kick or an up kick. I know that sounds weird, there is, but I always say there's just the kick. It's a constant. It's always moving, and if you're only focusing on one part of that, then you're not truly going to be a great underwater kicker, right? So when you're underwater kicking, if you have a bunch of athletes really down kicking hard and recovering and then down kicking hard again, I call it the hammer kick. They're a carpenter, they're laying the hammer down, they're just really pounding it, but they're not engaging their core right, they're not getting that power and that speed that can be maintained, especially in a fatigue state, right? Because eventually, in any race we're going to do it, except maybe at 50, we're going to be in a fatigued state, and that's where I don't think those kind of kicks are going to go very well.
Yeah. In talking about that core connection, we had Dr. Dan Maggio on last week, and he hammered at that point home as far as if you are not connecting your core up, one, you're not going to be powerful. Two, you're also leading yourself down a road towards injuries. So it's not just important for the effectiveness or efficiency of your kick. It's important longevity-wise for the sport. And I think, especially swimmers who aren't doing that upbeat kick, if they aren't connecting their core and then try and force that upbeat, you're going to have a lot more problems. And those kids the diameter on that kick is going to hurt them far more than anything else.
Yeah, and it's complicated because, they could be kicking really hard and even kicking with a fluid kick, but it could be too big, right? And that can create a lot of stress on the lower back. Do that. Or it could be too small where it doesn't matter. You can go either way. So it's really finding that amplitude that you want that's good for them. And I think that's the only way you can really do that is by drilling, making them aware, doing one leg kicks, side kicks. We like roller coaster.
Yeah.
We do our flip stuff. And if those of you don't know what roller coaster is, it's just basically, I pretend in my hand, I'm using hand motions here, but you're basically going up the roller coaster and down the roller coaster, and you're doing that with your body, just underwater with your hands apart. Now, the reason I don't know if I invented that drill, but I got irritated with some 6'5" and they couldn't underwater kick. So I said, I got to teach them how to flow through the water. So we did this for a couple of weeks, and next thing you know, he started feeling the kick a little bit. He started flowing better. So I think as coaches, we can be creative and find different ways to help that athlete understand that whatever they're not understanding, but it has to be enough where it's consistent. If you're doing it once a month, it's not going to matter. If you do it a couple times a week and you get into it, then the athletes will start to grasp the concepts. And I think that's the hard part, is doing it enough where you can really make a difference.
Yeah, well, and I think, you and I, we like roller coaster drill. We like some side kick, some one leg kick with fin. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it's two things. It's one, you're doing something underwater to teach them how their body moves underwater, and two, you're not doing it under high duress or fatigue. You're allowing them to be somewhat recovered so they can feel some power. Their legs aren't just jello trying to push off the wall. How much training do you do drill wise with athletes at fatigue when you're just hammering underwater?
Well, I don't like to do a lot. Though, okay, I always say teach them to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I mean, you have to do that because there is an element of underwater kicking when you're under there. You're like, is this too much? Or, I'm a little bit, I need air. And you put a brace on that. But I think when they get fatigued, the best thing to do, throw fins on. Just get fins on. They can still practice their line. They're going to go faster so they can get to the point quicker. I love fins and underwater kicking. In fact, I like to do that with a fresh too because they can really feel that flow better because their feet kind of get longer. Now, I'm talking about the little longer fins, not the short, small ones. I don't think those teach much. They will overload the system that you want, but to really learn the flow kick, I think you have to have a little bit longer fins.
Yeah, well, and those longer fins, they allow you to create a little more power, which is going to force you to connect up those muscles. You're going to feel it better. Okay? And once again, everything is about finding that line and connecting your core. So using those fins to engage that core, let them know what it feels like.
And that totally leads to what we were talking about before we got on was, what about the breakdown, right? I mean, so much, and I know you got a big discussion about this in the last couple ones, but in that breakout, if you're in a fatigued state, you have to learn how to break out without feet, right? Because if every day in practice they're going kick, slow down, then break out, that's what they're going to do in a race. So the goal is to teach them how to maintain speed to the breakout. Fins allow for that to happen a lot. So I think fins can help that breakout process a lot more. Now, we can talk technical on how much you want to go into this on the breakout process, because that's not underwater kicking, but the teaching of that, if you do see your athletes getting tired, or if you're tired as an athlete, the coach allows it, then you can really just practice it with fins, because you can do a lot of correct things with fins that they go away when you take them off. So to get that muscle memory and to get that practice, I think fins is really a great way to kind of move forward.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an important thing to be able to do a skill under fatigue, but it's also an important thing to train something fresh. And having those fins, whether you're doing it fresh fatigue, and it's knowing how to utilize that for the athlete's best result. And like you're talking about, you use them fresh when you want to feel that engagement a little bit better. You want them to find that overspeed quicker. Okay, so you're looking for in excess of success, right? And then when you're looking at when they're fatigued, you're looking for it to maintain a credible ability to do it in a race, so that we're enforcing good habits, not allowing bad habits to start to exist, right? So
sometimes we learn things from coaches from making mistakes. Hey, here you go, I'm going to share my mistake. There was one year where I just got away from doing speed work / underwater work early in the practice. So I kind of leaned towards it toward the end of practice, right? But all the other years I was doing it at the beginning of practice because I felt, for that very reason, I wanted to be fresh and when I'm ready to go. Well, that year, guess what? Our underwaters were very good, our breakouts were very good, and our speed wasn't very good. And it took me a year to go back and go, what did I do wrong? And when I looked at my practices, I don't know why, I just kind of went toward the end of practice instead of the beginning of practice. Next thing I know, it really hurt our season that year on that element. So, sometimes you learn from the mistakes, and I definitely learned that year. So what you're saying is do it fresh, do it tired, but don't do too much of either because you've got to learn how to be in a fatigue state to go. You also got to do it when you're fresh so your mistakes aren't giving you a pattern that you're going to do at every meet.
Yeah. No, and it's exactly right. And, touching back on something you said a few minutes ago, just on doing underwaters in warm up, and like what's something that everybody does at the end of their warm up right before their race? They get up and they go fast. Yeah. They do something fast. Okay, so why would you think that you get your shoulders and your core firing across the body? Why would you think that it's not important to get those legs firing underwater too? And I think that's an element where it can hurt you in training because that athlete, because they failed to warm that up, they aren't going to have their best underwaters, and they're going to go back and go, why are my underwaters not working? Well, we aren't getting the correct sample size either. It's diluted because everything else was good and we didn't prepare correctly. So I think coaching that warm up a little bit better and having athletes understand, if you're training underwaters for distance underwater in practice, that athlete now needs to understand going into the race. We aren't doing that here. Here we're going fast. We're maintaining speed and getting up to the surface to go, and teaching them we have to warm that up. That's a muscle that needs to be engaged. So, is there anything you'd tell other coaches out there that maybe it's not what you're doing in practice, maybe it's what you're doing at the meet?
Yeah, I think it could be the warm-up process, but I also think going fast underwater golfing, right, which is, it sounds so easy to say, but really hard to do correctly. And there's a lot of technical aspects that I think you have to work on. You got to find ways to teach them in practice so that when they get to the meet, it's automatic. And my belief is time short bursts a lot. Okay, so now I have a 60-foot pool in my backyard. It's 20 yards. I have a halfway spot. And that halfway spot's 30 feet. And I time people almost every time I work with them on that. And it gets competitive. They're just going against themselves. And I'll say, hey, your best time is this. Well, what they'll do is they'll push off the wall. They'll kick too big. And they go slow. Oh. Then they kick too small. Oh, they don't do it. Then they kick just right. And then we do that a couple times. And then they can really feel that. So what you got to do is give the opportunity to those athletes, either on a dive, off a turn, off a push-off, a whip, whatever is good. And I don't think much after about 6 to 8 kicks, you're going to lose it. So, that's my belief. There are athletes who can maintain it longer than that, but most are 3 to 5 kicks, and then you're going to have some breakdown, depending on the athlete. But I would just say, what can you do to do that short burst, time it consistently, pick a spot in your pool, put a cone up on the same spot every time, whatever you think that spot is, and just hammer that on a consistent basis. And that will then give them an ability to get to a meet and understand what you want and then to do that. And then, as you said, warm it up. Anything you can do, especially in the morning. Most kids don't warm it up in the morning session. They forget, or it just gets crowded, whatever. But if they can warm that up, especially in the events that matter to the fly and freestyle, if they're shorter, you got to really get that down. And it's sometimes hard to warm up. Well, I get it, but they got to find a way.
Yeah. No, and I love that. Going fast for those short efforts, putting that emphasis on how important that breakout is. I think a lot of time coaches get too caught up in what they want to teach, whereas a lot of times it's allowing that athlete to do something as fast as they can and find a way to do it faster. Letting their body move through the water, letting it just naturally find a pattern that works for them. And it's not to say you don't coach it up, but allowing that flow, it makes a huge difference for them.
Well, I was working with my nephew, which most people know is Brian Hoffer. He's a pretty good underwater kicker. And when he was younger, we played a lot around with that. Like how big, how small, how to engage the core, how much to move the hands. I'm not a big believer in moving his hands, but he generates so much power that you'll see his hands kind of slightly go up and down when he's kicking. But I'm telling you, man, we time things all the time, and he would figure it out. He's an elite athlete. He figured it out, and I said, oh, no, that wasn't that good. Do it better. Do it different. And I just threw it back to the athlete. Now, he's an elite athlete that was pretty good with that. Some athletes you have to instruct a little bit more. but how fun was that? No, that wasn't good. You got to go a little slower, bigger. I don't know. You figure it out. And then he was an experiment. But as a coach, you can let that athlete experiment, let them find it out. It's going to be way more to them when they figure it out than you telling them exactly what to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I think that's, you should have a baseline. You have certain things, certain elements that you look for, and those things you hold true to. You teach those. Everything around it becomes athlete preference. Whatever works best. Like on freestyle, we talked about recovery a ton, like how the arm comes over, and that's pretty much athlete preference as long as we're seeing certain things. With underwater kick, I think, you and I are the same way where I don't want to see hands moving. And that's where I started. Like Ryan, he creates enough power to where there's no stopping those hands from at least a shift. So I think
Right.
Having engaging that core is going to minimize the arm movement, and I think I would almost call what Ryan has in his arm movement a recoil. It's the recoil, it's the aftershock from that wave, and it's able to hold as stable as it is due to his engaged core.
It is amazing. I mean, it's fun to watch. And I think when you see the good underwater kickers, you're really amazed on how pretty it is and how fluid they are. But it's not easy. It takes years and years and years of core strengthening, hamstring, lower back strengthening, understanding, really allowing them that time underwater, like you said, to really understand the flow through the kick. They're going to make mistakes. We've made a lot of mistakes. A lot of athletes make a lot of mistakes on that. Oops, too many kicks. Oh, not enough kicks. But we have to let them go through that so that as they mature and get older, then, by the time, hopefully they're junior in high school, senior in high school, they're able to really dial in. And then by the time they get to college, they should have a pretty close idea of where they're at. Now, if they get stronger and things change, that's up to the college coach to figure out. But by the time you get to be a senior, you should have a pretty good idea how many kicks you're going to do. You've got a good understanding of the flow, but the coach has to allow that time to develop.
Yeah. Well, I think, we've really hammered on, how much work we have to do, how much strengthening we have to do, the core engagement. But, I think underwaters can be a lot of fun to work on, too.
It's my favorite. And I think it still goes into 15 meters. And that's kind of my point, going in on a dive. And, a lot of coaches don't think that's not enough, right? And you need to do more. But I'm telling you, if you can get that first 15 meters with the underwater kick and the breakout into a consistent process where they're not varying very much. Like if they did 10 starts, you would not vary very much. It's an amazing thing how consistent that athlete does, right?
Yeah.
And so start it with the kick first, and then get that breakout to follow it without losing speed. And I'm telling you, that takes care of a lot of things in the beginning of the race, in a 100 breaststroke, in a 100 butterfly, because there's a lot of things that happen that first 15 that they're trying too hard, or they make mistakes, or they have to make up for it, which affects the later part of the race.
Yeah. And it gets into, oxygen debt, and there's a bunch of other factors that we don't need to get into, but yeah, it's creating consistency. And I think there's so many fun ways to do it. Like we talked about, roller coasters, not a boring drill by any means. One leg kick with fins, all this stuff is pretty engaging stuff. So I think it's a good tool to have in your bag, even for days where maybe it's a full moon, things aren't going great. The athletes are a little out of hand. You can throw something at them that's a little fun, but they're still going to get a huge reward at the end of the day for it when it comes to just how they move underwater, how they come off of walls.
I will tell you, it's also an indicator, and I don't think a lot of coaches think about this, but I'm going to go back to Ryan again. We knew that if his 15 meter from a dive was slow, he was tired. Now you're saying, could you really tell? Yes. I mean, if he's consistently, I'm just going to throw times out, whether he does these all the time or not. If he's somewhere between a 4.9, if he was, pretty good, 4.7 when he was rested to the 15 meter mark. If he would do a dive and he was at 5.2, 5.3, that was a huge indicator that his body was really overrun. So we started looking at that a little bit. What do you think? How could that be? It's only 5 seconds, but for an elite sprinter, it was a huge difference. Now maybe you could do that differently. Say, hey guys, we're going to do 4.25s in the water, and everybody on your team is, a second and a half slower than what they normally go. That would be a huge indicator for you as a coach to look at that and evaluate that and say, oh boy, I don't know what's going on. I got something really tired here. It makes you think a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's things you get with underwater kicking as a coach, not only to make them better, but also to be a great way to evaluate where they are, because you're engaging a lot of muscles in that underwater kicking.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's always fun, having you on and talking about this stuff. Why don't we, kick it over? If anybody has any questions, I'm going to have Brian let you know where you can get a hold of him, how to reach out to him, maybe get some lessons. But throw your questions up there. Brian, go ahead and tell them where they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, there's a couple ways. You can go around the website at hoffersportsconsulting.com, and most certainly I'm on Instagram and all that thing. But hopforce.com is our other one, so that's where my brother and I developed kind of a training philosophy and technique and strength. And we go over to drills on there. It's kind of fun. I'm actually talking and instructing. There's also, I always kind of randomly put different drills up there. That's hopforce.com. And you can look at that and maybe get a few ideas either as a coach or even as an athlete. You can say, oh, that's how that drill should be done. So I'm very specific in that thing. So me, hand and things that you're really looking for, and it varies. I may have freestyle up a little while, then I have a little breaststroke, and then we have workouts up, and we have some dry land exercise, which everyone's doing dry land right now because of where we're at, but. It's a fun website to look at it. You don't have to sit on it for an hour. You can really go through everything in about 15 minutes or less, and get a couple ideas and move on and come back to the month later.
Awesome. Well, Brian, thanks for coming on today, and thank you guys for jumping on and seeing what we were doing.